Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We're going to continue our year-end special edition about 36 stratagem that summarized like 1,000 years ago by scholars to illustrate the ways that, oh, sorry, a little bit of chaos. Having a master. Okay, so yesterday we talked about 借尸还魂, which is about using something that's seemingly useless, like a dead body, to instill it with some spirit or intention or action so that you kind of surprise your enemy. And we have this important concept of huan, and we distinguished how huan is different from hu. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about one famous strategy that even in contemporary life, we see it a lot, which is called 声东击西. And here, if you have been following the program for a while, you will notice that we have 东西, the opposite meaning, the east and west over there. And now we have 声 and 击. Before I go to the traditional Chinese version, I wouldn't know there are similarities in there. But once I put it in the same frame, you see the same structures on there. So we have some interesting things to talk about today. Let's go over Dong and Xi because that's easier to do. Okay, so Dong come from this image of the sun rising above the horizon, and it is kind of right in between the root of the tree and the canopy of the tree. So it's kind of close to the horizon. It's not rise above the tree yet. So here, the sun symbol, the oval shape with a horizontal line, which signifies the ray or the energy, the beam coming from the sun, is intentionally placed on the trunk section. So, okay, this is the canopy of the tree, and this is the trunk of the tree, and this downward arch is a kind of a spacer. I regard it as a spacer to put there to recognize that there is some distance from the canopy to the ground. So here, the sun is intentionally embedded in there to mean it's just rising up. It's not that far from the horizon yet. Okay, Xi, and you can say we can use the same symbol on Xi, right? Isn't sun setting also pass through this in between the tree trunks phenomenon? Yes, technically we can, right? Because you have the same vision when the sun is at a certain angle above the horizon. But language creators have to put something else there to distinguish, right? The east versus the west. And also sunrise is a pleasant thing to see. And because sun always rises from the east, no matter which, wait, okay, I have to think. Is it like no matter where on the planet you are? Because I know if you're on the, say, the American side, you see the sun rise up. Yeah. And even you're on the south side of the globe, you also see the sun rise from the east, right? Because the earth always turning in the same direction. Okay, so wherever you are on planet Earth, the sun always rises from the east. But instead of using a sun setting, the same movement, because over here is a freezed frame. We cannot see the motion of the sun going up or downward. I guess creators can literally use a upward pointing, downward pointing, but that's not as elegant as this character. So instead, creators are using this curvature shape with this almost like a spoon of thread looking thing over here. So here, what that is also related to tree. So this is kind of a branch of tree kind of sticking out in a this shape. Well, actually, it's really this shape, but I cannot curve my hand like that. Okay, and this thing is actually a bird's nest. Bird's nest honey over a tree branch, and that signifies the moment when birds are returning to their nest at the end of the day. So if you notice, birds always go back to their nest, at least a certain type of birds. I probably cannot say that to all birds, but yeah, definitely not owls, right? So day activity birds, they would return to their nest by around twilight or sunset, right? So that's a perfect indicator of, okay, birds returning to the nest at sunset time. So there we go. 声and 击, complicated structure. Let's unpack as much as I can. Okay, so this is our ear symbol. And yeah, I guess you can see the kind of abstraction of the ear, but I don't know like what this tip and this tip, probably it means a continuation of the ear kind of embedded on the side of your head. I don't know. And there is this horizontal line as well. So I guess ear by itself is a receptor. It's not a signal sender, right? Unlike mouth that can, speak and sound bites coming out of it. The ear doesn't produce anything and project to the space, right? So the horizontal line, it couldn't mean something getting out of the ear. It gotta mean something into the ear. So that's my reasoning why there's a horizontal line there, because we said earlier, this is a sunbeam coming from the sun. And here it's the sound bites coming into the ear. Okay, so this is our ear symbol. And then the right side, this common denominator between the two icons are three-finger hand symbol. And this structure almost looks like a sideways kneeling figure. But it could also be some sort of tool, such as a whip, something you can use your hand and swing and hit on some surface. So let's take it like that in this context, because here we're talking about sound making, ear related, right? And then the left side is the material of this whole top thing. Is an ancient instrument. That instrument was set up on a wood frame. Lots of times when you see instruments related characters, they have the wood frame, something about the wood in there, made from the wood. And this structure is like a stand, right? And then there are two hollows on the stand, and that's the instrument, how it looks. So this instrument is called a qing. It's a like two frames, two rows of 20 plus some bells in different sizes, so different pitches, right? And made of metal. The bells, the sound making instrument itself is made of metal and have hollow, right? Hollow is how the sound are going to vibrate and start to create the sound. So we have a wood frame and also the shape of the instrument that looks like two hollow item hanging on the frame. So that's how the instrument looks like. And probably the instrument was played with some kind of drumstick thing, looking thing, that even if I don't know what kind of tool they used to hit on the metal thing. But it is, you're not going to hit with hand, because hand touch metal are not going to produce a sharp sound. So it got to be something, right? So this handheld device hidden on this wood framed, hanging on the, dangling a row, like two rows of the metal kind of bell shaped thing. So that's the image of the instrument. And here we pair that instrument with the ear. That means the instrument produces the sound, and the ear receives the sound, and that whole sound creation and receiving process, so-called the whole life cycle of the sound, right, is captured in here. And eventually in contemporary Chinese, we just simplify with the left side like that. That the whole thing means hearing or the sound. Well, actually, sound is better, or make a sound. So because Chinese, a lot of times there's this crossover of, okay, here is a sound making, right? Sound creation, sound hearing process. And then we can easily extend that into verb. So here is a make a sound. So make a sound in the east, but instead you attack the west. So attack here is 5-finger hand symbol, right? At the bottom, that looks like this with kind of, it's hard to render. Okay, and then 3-finger hand symbol. So we have a lot of hands-on activity over there, holding some sort of device. And okay, here is up to my interpretation. It's hard to say what that is, but I can safely say this structure with a kind of oval shape with a horizontal line. You see the difference here. This is the sun, and then the sun beam is within, not touching to the end of the circle. So the horizontal and oval doesn't touch, versus here it's firmly touched, and people have to make it make a rule, like you have to touch, you cannot have an opening edge over here, you have to close it. The reason why is because it's a symbol of the spoke on the wheel. And we know, yes, there are multiple little spokes on the wheel, but language creators will have to use abstraction because we don't have the time to draw all that out, or it will be totally black around here, right? A big black dot. So here instead use oval shape. I mean, ideally it should be perfect sphere, because realistically wheels are perfect. I mean, perfect circle shape, right? But of course this is for space saving purpose as well. And just by horizontal line, vertical line, like 2 lines is enough to show this is a wheel. So that's the structure. And then the wheel sitting on a, I have to say it's kind of like spoke, not spoke, some axis, some beam that the wheel is installed on, right? So it's it can carry whatever the load on top of that, the beam structure over forward. And then this 2 sides is kind of like stoppers from my imagination is from the wheel, from falling off the beam, right? You have to have a certain stopper to keep the wheel in between in a safe range. So that's our symbol for ancient chariot or cart or whatever on wheel structure back then. I'm not sure about what that is. I mean, something at the very end of that wheelie structure. So no clue, but I regard it as still the main indicator is something related to cart, to rolling vehicle. And so you can understand here, we have a hand holding something, hitting on something related to a vehicle back then. So naturally, I would imagine it's a horse or ox, or donkey, whatever domestic animal you use to pull the wheel, the cart. So we can imagine a carriage or chariot of horse pulled chariot involved with wheels, and the hand control device must be the whip to hit on, to give signals to horse where to go. Okay? And then the whole thing on the top probably depicting just this hitting the horse or control the animal so that things are going a certain way. And then the bottom use the hand symbol connected to that symbol to mean you attack. So this is kind of abstraction and extension of, instead of hitting a horse to make a carriage going forward, here you have a hand symbol means something related using force. It could be with a device or just with hand attack. So the whole thing just means that I use rustle, means you're making a sound. You're rustling, intentionally catch attention of somebody, draw their attention to the east location. But instead, you place your force on the west to attack the west. And that's the way you can sort of redistribute your enemy's forces to mislocate or use misinformation to distract them to where you really want to attack. So here I translate it as disorient. You try to disorient your enemy. The orient doesn't mean the enemy doesn't know east or west. Doesn't mean that they have no sense of direction, the absolute direction, but they lose the sense of relative direction, of direction of where you're attacking to. So where is your target? That kind of direction, they lost it because you kind of confused them by 声东击西策略. Okay, so I mean, 策略means strategy. Okay, and here I'm showing a picture of the queen of ping pong in China, and she probably won more like a championship than anybody else in China, and she was very short framed and very petite. But instead, she was, in spite of the frame of her, like she doesn't have a long wingspan or doesn't have long legs to zigzag quickly to defend on the ping pong table. But instead, she came up with some strategy to be super fast. That is almost indefensible to the opponent. So her name is Deng Yaping, and I use this ping pong image to pair with Disorient because I know how to play ping pong as a Chinese, right? A little bit. I'm very super newbie and entry level. And I know one common strategy is to use this 声东击西, which is you look as if you intend to hit in a certain direction, but instead, when the ball is on your pad, you kind of twist it subtly in a certain way that redirect the ball to another side. So your opponent was totally tricked. So that's why this goes together. And I probably, I mean, I'm not a soccer fan either, so probably this is a common strategy in sports a lot, that whenever regarding shooting a ball in a certain direction. So 声东击西, probably see a lot that in a soccer game. So right now it's World Cup, so I should have used 声东击西 example from the soccer. But hey, in America, it seems like not many people care about World Cup. But 声东击西, it can be used in whatever ball game. Okay, cashing into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.